go into service. My first job was service. We had to learn how to scrub. I used to go round the houses with a bucket of water to clean their steps. Whole flights of steps for tuppence. I wouldn't have chosen to stay on at school, though. I never liked school.
We never had no picking or choosing when we left school. Wanted, woman for cleaning.
Wanted, a good plain cook. Live and sleep in.
Wanted at once, 6 waitresses.
Wanted, young lady as barmaid.
Young lady shop assistant wanted for bakers. 26 shillings a week and tea.
The girl of 14 tends to drift into the most remunerative employment immediately available, keeping the alternative of marriage always in view.
I was working at Pete Green's, the biscuit place. And just before the war, I got married. Well, no married women were allowed to work there, so I had to leave. Employers wouldn't employ married women because of the break in having children. Once you got married, you had to leave.
When I first went out to work, it was considered beyond the pale for a married woman to be so hard up that her husband couldn't afford to keep her.
My husband said to me, the day you go to work, I'll pack up. If I can't afford to keep you, then I shouldn't have married you.
The object was for the husband to go out to work to earn the money, while the wife stayed at home to do the housework and have the children.
There's no place like home. Oh, there's no place like home.
The housework was a full-time occupation. A lot of people only had outside water. So in the corner of the scullery, you'd have a copper. You'd light a fire under it, then you'd bucket the water into the copper, then you'd bucket it out again into a tin bath. We did our washing on a scrubbing board. I used to start my wash day at 6:30 in the morning, and I wouldn't finish till 5 at night. The next day I'd spend starching and ironing. I had a flat iron that I used to heat on the range.
We had the tables and the chairs to scrub.
Yeah, we used to scrub the floors. Every bit of carpet had to be swept by hand, and you had to give it 7 brushes each part. I had to get on my knees to clean the flues.
We had to go shopping practically every day. Our pantry was out in the garden. A meat safe with a wire front. We kept it on a stone. You couldn't keep stuff fresh for more than a day.
You had to cook on the old-fashioned range, and we had large families before the war.
Yeah, a lot of children to look after.
Me pleasures and palaces, though we may roam, be it ever so humble, there's no place like home. A charm from the skies seems to hallow us there, which seeing through the world is ne'er met with elsewhere. Home, home, sweet, sweet, ooh. That Sunday morning, the sirens went and people went mad. They all rushed for their gas masks, all rushed down the shelters and waited.
The government have ordered the evacuation of school children. If your children are registered for evacuation, send them to their assembly point at once.
1.5 million people were evacuated from the big cities. Children, women with babies, pregnant women, the blind, the crippled, and the handicapped.
I had to let my 2 sons go. One was 6, the other was 12. I can remember seeing their smiling faces in an open-top bus, with their little tickets on with all the other evacuees. I'd put new suits on the 2 boys and I'd made them look smart. I didn't hear for days afterwards. I was so upset.
I can remember the first day of the war when my mum just wouldn't believe it. The air raid warnings went, and we didn't quite know what to do.
I don't care. I'm going to get my Sunday John cooked, war or no war.
And she did. We didn't go to the shelter because we got halfway up the garden and didn't know if it was true or not.
Of course, nothing happened.
It was a false alarm. As for the bombings, that didn't start for quite a long time after. Nothing seemed to happen. It was called the phony war.
Every household will receive a form, and householders must fill in this form on a given night, stating who is living there and whether they are living there temporarily or permanently.
I had a problem with this temporary or permanent business.
Well, permanent means intending to remain there indefinitely.
I know what it means. It's my mother-in-law. She's just moved in with us. She thinks she's moved in permanent. I think she's moved in temporary.
Our two boys were evacuated, and the people where they went to thought they were there indefinite. But I missed them, so I had them back with me. So they weren't permanent there, but now they're permanent here.
My husband filled this in.
Ah, but I see your husband's in the army.
He was home on leave.
Well, then he shouldn't be down as permanent.
He better be permanent. Or I'll have something to say about it.
A rather difficult job. Registration cards were issued from these forms, and then, from the same register, ration books were issued.
Rationing was terrible.
Nearly half our food comes across the sea. The U-boats attack our ships. Now here is your part in the fight for victory. When a particular food is not available, cheerfully accept something else, home-produced, if possible.
I used to make my kids bananas out of parsnips. I used to boil these parsnips and put in this banana essence. And my kids used to think they had bananas. We did a lot of things like that. Keep loyally to the rationing regulations. Above all, whether you are shopping, cooking, or eating, remember, food is your munition of war. Don't waste it.
If you had meat one week, you couldn't have it the next, because you didn't have enough coupons. You could get corned beef now and again, but you'd lose your meat ration, and you could only have one egg on the book. We used to have to make cakes without eggs.
Hey, little hen, when will you lay me an egg for my tea?
Imitation eggs. Make a batter. Cut a tomato in two and put it into the batter.
Hey, little
Lay
hen.
each half out with a spoon, keeping the brown side up, and put it into hot fat. The tomato shines through, looking like the yolk of an egg. If cooked in bacon fat, you can almost imagine you had bacon as well.
When will you lay me an egg for my tea? 4 fruit jam. Wash and peel 4 ounces of cooked beetroot and carrot. Chop finely. Add strawberry jelly and blackcurrant jelly. Leave to set. Eat within 3 days.
Shoot straight, lady. You've got a fighting job on hand, too.
These are significant days, and anyone, man, woman, or child who is less than fighting fit is a pullback on the total war effort. Food is your munition of war.
You had to queue up everywhere.
We didn't have time for nothing. We were too busy queuing up for food when they got some in. Hello, how you doing?
All right, how's yourself?
Could be worse. Heard from your Charlie?
Oh, yes. He's just finished his basic training and he's been posted.
I'll wait too. Well, shouldn't have asked, should I? Wars have ears.
What are we queuing for anyway?
If you saw a queue, you joined it and found out what it was for later.
In wartime, production must be for war and not for peace.
Yes.
Here are some examples of the changeover from peacetime products to wartime necessities. Carpets become webbing. Saucepans become steel helmets.
Yes.
Combs become eye shields. Toilet preparations become anti-gas ointments.
Golf balls become gas masks. Corsets become parachutes.
I don't believe it.
Well, then I'm in my corset, and that's that.
I went on war work at this firm that used to make marquees and had been changed over. To start off with, I made sandbags. And then we moved on to chin straps for soldiers. That was piecework, and I used to get 1 shilling for 12 of them. And then we moved on to khaki belts with great big buckles You had to stitch in between. That was hard work. And I saw girls get the machine needle in their thumb. It's dreadful. And there was no compensation. I didn't stick it long. My husband was stationed in Exeter. And these people were asked to entertain troops for Christmas in their homes. I was invited down for a fortnight, and I stayed on there.
I couldn't go out to a job myself because of the boys. But they came from the hospital to ask if I could do anything to help them. Would I put up 2 nurses? Well, of course I said I can do that. Little did I know what I was letting myself in for. I had to wash their sheets, clean their rooms, cook them a hot meal, and on what I got paid. Oh, it was such a struggle. I had to keep counting it over and over again. I gave it up in the end because it wasn't worth it.
I was doing war work in Exeter. I was making the navy blue silkish parachutes for the RAF. A double needle and thick white cotton. Then the examiners would come round and pull either end. And if there were any stitches to crack, they would make them crack, because they couldn't take any chances. So they pulled and pulled, and you probably sat there all night working. You had to go all over it again. I got the sack from there, because I used to take too much time off. Whenever my husband was home on leave, I used to take time off.
Serve in the WAP with the men who fly.
Oh, I would have loved to have gone into one of the forces, but Charlie, my husband, didn't want me to. He said one of us was enough, and he'd never know where I was.
Join the ATS.
My mum didn't want me to go either.
Your husband's in it, your brothers are in it. You're the girl who should be back home with me.
I didn't want to upset my mum.
Join the Wrens and free a man to join the fleet.
I stayed in Exeter ever so long. And then one night, Charlie, my husband, come home. He said he was going abroad. He'd been posted to Gibraltar. Oh, I really desperately wanted to go in one of the forces. I went home to talk to my mum.
You can't join the forces in your condition.
What condition?
I'll book you up to go to the antenatal clinic.
Join the Wrens. Join the ATS.
I want to do something useful. I want to do something before they ask me to do something. I can serve my country if I join up.
Serve in the WAP.
My brother was already in the Air Force, but Mother wouldn't let me go.
No, I need you at home.
You're not my grandma. I'm my sister. You won't be lonely.
I need you to help with the work.
My sister played the lady and left me to do all the dirty work. You can manage without me.
I'll be worried about you.
She wouldn't. She always thought a lot more of my sister than she did of me.
Anyway, you're not to go.
Well, I was above the age. I was 20. I told a lie. Mother, I'm going to Haywards Heath for the day.
What for?
I caught the train to London and went to Adastral Hats.
Yes, your medical was quite satisfactory. You're A1.
You had to be A1 to get into the wax.
Now, the only jobs that are open at the moment are for cooks and waitresses.
Cooks or waitresses? Oh, no. Oh, thank you very much, but I don't want to be a cook or a waitress. I've got a trade. I'll come back when you have some other vacancy.
Oh, not good enough for you. So just what qualifications do you think you've got?
I'm a GPO trained telephonist.
Telephonist. And properly trained by the GPO? Oh well, in that case the fact is we are rather short of, indeed desperate for signals people. You're in. Go back home and you'll be hearing from us within a few days.
That was on the Wednesday. I still said nothing to my mother.
Have a good time in Haywards Heath.
I didn't like deceiving her, but I've always been a bit of a rebel. My sister was the goody-goody, and I was the rebel. So the next morning, the Thursday, the village postmaster knocked at the door with the post, and there was this telegram.
A telegram? It's your brother Leslie, I know it is. His plane's crashed, he's been killed.
No, look, it's addressed to me.
What?
It's for me.
Why would they send you a telegram? What do you want with telegrams?
I've been accepted into the WAF.
What do you mean? Report to Adastral House Monday morning? How can you have been accepted if you haven't applied?
I have applied. I've had my medical and I've been accepted.
Behind my back?
It's no good, Mother. I've made up my mind. I'm going, and you can't stop me.
Well, you'll never put up with the discipline. You never do what you're told.
Oh, yes, I will. I'm not frightened of discipline. I like discipline. Real discipline.
You can't leave home. You're not old enough.
Mother, I'm 20. Now I've got to get ready, so I better get on with it. You've had to take a change of underclothes, a set of night clothes, and your toothbrush. You'll be given a uniform when you got there. Oh, and you had to take the telegram as proof. And your birth certificate, and some other means of identification. Mother, do you think a library ticket will do? Once she knew I was really going, she cried her eyes out. We had a tearful farewell. She broke down. She made me cry, but I didn't let her see me. Come on, Mother, cheer up. There's nothing to cry about. I'll be home on leave before you know it. I waited till I got on the bus. Then I had my little cry. I didn't know where I was going. All I knew was I had to report to London. I set off with my little bag, and when we got to Adastral House, we were all shepherded into one room.
In there. In there.
We waited.
And waited.
About an hour. Yeah, about an hour.
Out here.
Then we all got marshalled outside. We didn't know where we were going or what we were going to do. And there was this great big truck, like a furniture van, only open at the back.
In there.
There were 2 benches in it, and we just sat on these benches. We rattled along. In fact, we nearly fell out once or twice. We had to hold on for grim death going round the corners. They were eager to get us there. How did you come to join?
My brother's in the RAF. Suppose I was a bit jealous, really.
Yeah, so's mine. Serving the WAF with the men who fly.
And I wasn't really very happy at home. My father's very strict. I thought I'd better go.
I joined up with another couple of girls. In the end, though, one changed her mind and the other went into the army. But I decided on the way.
Why the WAF?
I think it'd be more fun. Besides, I fancy the blue.
Yeah, but I like the WAF uniform better. I don't like the colour of the ATS uniform.
I didn't mean the uniform, love. When I said I fancied the blue, I mean the men. There's something about Air Force boys. Serving the WAF with the men who fly.
Oh, I didn't have to volunteer, you know. I could have been reserved. I was working in the food industry. I didn't have to come.
That's what volunteering means, love.
Shove over. Let me sit next to her. Go on, have a good cry. That's what I feel like as well.
Oh, I wish I hadn't come. Did you not let me go home?
You said you weren't very happy at home.
No, I wasn't. Well, I've always been so shy at home, bad at mixing. I thought I'd be better in the services.
Yeah, I'm sure you will.
Well, you didn't let me go home.
You can't change your mind like that the minute you volunteered for something.
Well, what would our mothers think if they could see us now? Well, I bet they don't think we're sitting in the back of a lorry. I expect they imagine we're travelling about in luxury caravans. sitting back like ladies, watching the scenery, rolling through the countryside, going on our holidays. Instead of which we can't see a thing.
Where were we going anyhow?
Anybody know? We were in that lorry 6 or 7 hours. We did have a break, just one break for a snack, and that was all. When we left London, it was broad daylight. And when we arrived, it was as black as the ace of spades, right out in the country.
Welcome to Innsworth Court.
Where's that?
Gloucester, right, fall in everybody. Lift, 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 right, lift, 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 lift. Don't you know your left from your right, young lady? This is your left. What is it? Left. And you start with your left. Right. Lift, right. X the double over to the clothing store. All right. I'm not going to say this twice, so listen. You'll be sure we choose us beautiful live out the same way one every day and keep on for best and what's best. Best is for parades. Right. Skirts 2, tunics 2, shirts 4, shoes 2 pairs, towels 2, pyjamas 2 pairs, stockings grey 4 pairs, knickers black for everyday wear 3 pairs, knickers grey silk for best 3 pairs.
When do we wear our best knickers then, eh?
Real passion killers they were. We used to call the black ones blackouts and the grey ones twilights.
One respirator, one helmet which you carry with you everywhere you go, one gas cape in case of gas, one pair of gas goggles likewise in case of gas, one tie hat which you will wear at all times, and one greatcoat which you will not wear on parade on a cold February morning. Right. Carrying your issue in a manner which will prevent you dropping it all over the place, line up. And on the command, lift, right, to your sleeping quarters. Lift, right, lift, right, lift.
It was a Nissen hut, with a funny old stove in the middle of it, and beds down either side.
Oh, the nearer the fire you were, the warmer you were.
Can I come in the bed next to you? Yeah, all right. We were so tired and dirty, and we had to make up our beds before we could crawl into them.
You will all be on parade at 6:30 a.m, bright and early. I shall expect to see your buttons shining like a row of little stars. I shall expect to see your shoes so polished that I can see my face in them. I shall expect to see your uniforms kept pressed without a single crease. And I shall expect to see your hair 2 inches above your collar and not one single hair out of place.
We had to tie a bootlace round our heads and roll all our hair up into it.
I shall come round with a ruler and I shall measure your hair, and if it is less than 2 inches above your collar, you'll be put on a charge.
What's the charge?
What is the charge, she asks. The charge means that after doing drill on the square all day till you're so tired you can't stand up, you come back on the square by yourself in the evening and run up and down for as long as I care to watch you. Snivelling? What's this snivelling? We can't have any snivelling here. We want everybody here nice and cheerful. We want everybody here singing. You are my sunshine. You all know it. And when I say I want you singing, I mean I want you singing. You'll sing and you'll be happy, or you'll be on a charge.
You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are grey. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away.
Lift, right, lift, and to the right. And now we're going to learn how to salute. This is how you salute. 2, 3, up, 2, 3, down, and after me. 2, 3. Wait for it. 2, 3, up, 2, 3, down. Not like a wet lettuce. I want to see the palm of your hand. I want to see some strength there. And again, 2, 3, up, 2, 3, down. I want to see your hands go up like a whiplash. And stay in place like a rod of iron. And again, 2, 3, up, 2, 3, down. Now, who do you salute? You salute an officer. Especially a white officer. And how do you tell an officer? An officer has gold braid around the peak of his hat. And every time you see an officer, you salute. On the camp, in the town, on the parade ground, and in the barracks, and even if you're sitting on the lavatory. And stand, heads! Now we're going to take the oath of allegiance. Attention! I swear to keep the secrets.
It's just like being in court.
King and country.
King and country.
The Secrecy Act.
The Secrecy Act.
What is the Secrecy Act?
Right, I would like you to put your signatures there just to show you've said it and you understand what it's all about. You. What's it all about?
It's all me.
Secrets?
Spell careless talk. Careless talk costs lives.
Careless talk costs lives.
If you use of our munitions,
Keep it dark.
ships or planes or troop positions,
Keep it dark.
lives are lost through conversation. Here's a tip for the duration when you private information.
Keep it dark. If you've news of ammunitions, keep it dark.
Keep it dark.
Ships or planes or troop positions, keep it dark.
Keep it dark.
Lives are lost through conversation. Here's a tip for the duration when you private information. Keep it dark.
Keep it dark.
I'll always remember the first day I went out on the town. I went out with this little girl that was crying, Joan. Suddenly, coming towards me, I saw a man with all gold braids round the peak of his cap. Well, as he came towards me, my knees were knocking. It was the first officer I'd seen. And as he came opposite, I saluted.
He looked at me in total bewilderment. Then he saluted back, and then he turned round and he's laughing all over his face.
That's what really brought little Joan out, telling the other girls in the hut afterwards.
He turned round and he's laughing all over his face, and he said, "You'll have to be careful, my dear. There's plenty of us knotting around Gloucester." It was the Electric Light Company inspector.
And she saluted him. How was I to know? He had all scrambled egg round his hat. It's not enough to see.
It wasn't an officer, it was the electric man.
Oh, the electric men! After that, Joan was all right.
Oh, I really love the way. You found your friends. Birds of a feather stick together. Well, you found types and different things, but you found your own level. You are my sunshine,
My double woodbine, my box of matches, my craven aim. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. Left, right, passing out parade. I went into special duties initially, Clark special duties. Well, it was operations intelligence I was hoping to do. It wasn't clerical work as such, it was more secrets as to where the boys were flying to. Unfortunately, it didn't last very long.
You'll have to remaster.
Why me?
Too many wanting to do operations intelligence, and because you're only an ACW too, a second-class aircraftswoman.
What shall I have to do then?
Well, you have a choice. You can be a cook or a waitress.
Isn't there anything else?
You wouldn't want it.
Oh, yes, I would. Anything but a cook or a waitress.
Right then. We'll teach you how to do pay accounts.
We had pay parade every other Friday. You all had your pay book and you had to line up. Then they called out your name like you were in school.
I was wondering what to call the names out. I was petrified when I knew I had to do it. ACW 1 Shepherd. Number?
037. 2 guineas. 2 guineas had to last you a fortnight.
It wasn't an awful lot. I was always hard up.
Well, it's only spending money. You get your uniform and your lodging and your food.
I was doing clerical work, general duties. It was technical work mostly. Servicing forms for aircraft. The aircraft were being used for training flights. And they each had a form and I'd fill them in and keep them up to date with the numbers of hours they'd flown. So they knew how they were for maintenance. I did mostly office hours, really. I didn't do shift work or anything like that. It wasn't really very exciting.
I hadn't got the knack for accounts. I could never get my figures to balance. Oh, why do we have to be A1 fit? Why march and drill all day? Just to sit at a desk and fill in forms. None of the airman's pay. Anyway, I'd already met my husband. And I got married on my first leave. We got married in uniform. Then I discovered I was pregnant. Morning sickness isn't very pleasant in Enlistment when everybody knows before you do, more or less. They gave me 3 months sick leave. I felt a bit embarrassed. I felt I'd rather wasted their time, what with the training and the kitting out. So I came out as I went in, an ACW 2, the very lowest of the low.
I was posted to Biggin Hill to report to the signals officer.
I see you have GPO training.
Yes, ma'am. I was manually trained at New Haven Exchange, and I've worked in all the London exchanges.
Oh, you'll be a great asset. We're getting girls here with no training at all.
Within a month, I was a leading aircraftswoman. That meant a propeller on your arm and an extra shilling a week. And within another month...
Well, Cunningham, the corporal's been posted to another station. Do you feel capable of taking over the exchange?
Yes, ma'am, I do. I thought anything for a laugh.
Right, Corporal. Go to the stores and draw yourself a pair of tapes.
We called them tapes, not stripes. So I was in charge of the exchange. We had 3 booths, side by side, though you could cover them together if you wanted. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
I do my duty every day, I'm a plugger up of calls. I sit at the board and push my plugs in all the little holes. Crew captains, pilots all come up to hear me speak my mind. And if I hand wrong numbers out, it's then they start to bind. It's have you got my number, miss, for goodness sake be quick. It's strictly a priority call, that man I'd like to kick. For after having cut off calls in order to do his bidding, his opening words are, hello my sweet, I know that he's been kidding.
You want to know your junctions and different things. Where you put it in if you want to dial.
And then we have the AC plonks round up and feeling brass, who flash receivers up and down, or forget what calls they passed. Or else while I'm connecting calls in high-pitched voice they shriek about the latest conquest in tones by no means meek.
You had to learn all your extensions. At Biggin Hill, there must have been a couple of 100 extensions.
Then NCOs who long ago should have had their discharge papers come on the line and shout and rave and cut all sorts of capers. They seem to think that a couple of takes gives them the right to bellow what they think of me and the GPO to every wife and fellow.
We used to work 12-hour shifts. Being in charge, I wasn't always on the board. I might be sitting behind watching.
So the next time you pick up the phone and have to wait at all, just think of me, the little wife who plugs in all the holes
Don't think I'm living comforts or drinking canteen tea. For if you could but see me, I'm as busy as can be.
We were the first to get the air raid warnings. And we used to have to give out the warnings to the fire station, the police station, whoever had a siren. We had to warn the hospitals as well. There must have been about 20 different numbers. The ops officer would ring down and ask for me.
It's you, Corp.
Corporal Cunningham here, sir.
Air raid warning red.
Air raid warning red. Right you are, sir. The girls used to get out of my way. I used to sit down quick and plug up all the calls by heart. Ring them all together to save time. I used to pull the lot back and then push them all forwards to speak. As soon as all the lights came up, I had to wait a few seconds to make sure they'd all answered me, and then I'd call out, RAF Biggin Hill, air raid warning red, RAF Biggin Hill, air raid warning red.
Everybody in the house, we all ran down and we lay flat in our little passageway. And these lights were coming down wholesale. They were flares. They dropped thousands of flares to light up the docklings, ready for the bombers to come over. They flattened all around. It was the Tower Bridge area, Deptford, and Woolwich. All those places. Everything was blazing. The sky was blazing all night.
Air raid warning red, air raid warning red.
I was expecting my baby at the time, and I was on this camp bed, and the bombs were dropping, and my camp bed top bit kept going up and down, and the bottom bit kept going up and down. And I could hear such a screaming from somewhere, and I never found out who it was.
I was a part-time air raid warden. I used to work one night on and one night off. You weren't paid, it was a thing you volunteered for. My job was to walk up and down the streets in the blackout, looking for any bombs that might have been dropped, people in trouble, anything suspicious. Air raid precautions can be fun if we're cheerful, everyone. Don't be dismal, wear a smile. We'll be okay in a while. It was a neighbourhood thing, really. People knew who their wardens were.
Aileen! Oh, thank goodness I found you, the baby started.
You had to run back to the bunker and phone headquarters, and they'd send police, ambulances, fire brigade, whatever was needed. And then you had to start to organise things until they got there. Now, they're on the way. Oh, you can't have the baby in the shelter without straight watching. You'll have to have a deer in the house.
Oh, we put a mattress under the stairs.
I was a driver with the London Ambulance Service. We were in a garage at the top of Knight's Hill. We were on all night waiting for calls, taking the ambulance out to people who'd been injured, getting them to hospital as quick as we could. We also had a car for the midwife.
There's a baby on the way. Can I have a driver?
I'll come. The men never would go out with her.
I'm going to report those men. They always make excuses. It's always the women that come out.
This must be one of the worst blitzes on London.
Yeah. One thing about the blitz, though, does take your mind off the blackout.
She's in here!
Right, now, I want you two to stay here so if the bombing gets any worse or comes any closer, you can now move to a shelter, right? Now, don't wander off, will you? Now, main concern's to have the baby.
I know what she means about wandering off. The girl who used to be on my van, she was a gold medalist in first aid, and she was always wandering off to do her own thing. Well, one night we had to go up to Crystal Palace. Present there was one blaze. Present there was one blaze of light. It was a furnace. It was terrific. Well, she was so full of zeal that she went off hunting. She went off hunting for people in the ruins. Well, you weren't supposed to do that. I had to load up my van with casualties and go off without her.
The baby arrived. A wartime baby. She was born on 10 to 12 on the 10th of May 1941. And that was the worst blitz in London.
Go to sleep, my baby. Close your pretty eyes. Angels up above you, watching from the skies. There's a great big moon a-shining, stars begin to peep. Time for Mommy's little darling to go to sleep.
After I had my baby, I didn't do war work, because I had my baby to look after.
In April 1941, the childless single woman between the ages of 19 and 30 became liable for conscription. A woman who has no domestic ties which prevent her leaving home must be prepared to undertake vital war employment in any area to which the employment exchange directs her.
I thought, if I volunteered before I was actually called up, I might get more of a choice. Trouble was, I had bad eczema. I didn't think they'd accept me in the WAFs or the Wrens. And my cousin said the ATS was all marching and saluting every Tom, Dick and Harry. Well, I couldn't see myself doing that. I've never taken kindly to that sort of thing. So, I then saw a poster. National Service Women's Land Army. Enrolled today. Lend a hand on the land. So, I went to the Labour Exchange, got the necessary forms, wrote and applied. I had to give my age, name, whether I was married or single, that sort of thing. Oh, I was accepted new enough straight away. I didn't have a medical or even an interview. After about a month, my gear arrived. Oh, it was only top gear. Your underwear, your nightwear, anything else you had to find the coupons for. Well, that was the worst bit, getting these clothes. Had to rob me mum of her clothing coupons, and had to take my own soaked tan and flannel. I tried my dungarees on, and I thought, good Lord, I'll never work in this lot. In those days, you see, women didn't wear trousers. I'd been brought up that it was indecent. But it was really strange, because I'd never worn trousers or been away from home in my life. I went to Paddington Station wondering what the heck I'd let myself in for. But when I arrived, there was a huge crowd of us all going down towards Brecon. We reported to Land Army officials.
And what's your name, dear?
Frances Debbing.
Ah, yes, Frances Debbing. Yes, Frances, we've been looking for you. We're pairing you off with Maud Wade. Maud, dear. Here's Frances now. Hello. Now, Maud and Frances, this is your train. Now, unfortunately, you Land Army girls are having to share the train with some soldiers going down to Reading Barracks. Now, the soldiers are travelling at the rear of the train, and you'll be travelling at the front. So off you go, both of you, and let me see you get into the right compartment.
I obviously think they need to keep an eye on our morals.
I don't know what they think we could get up to.
Not in front of everyone else anyway. When we arrived, we were put into various cars and dropped off at our village.
Good afternoon, Mrs. Bird. Good afternoon, Mrs. Bird. These are your two land army gals. This is Frances Debbie, and this is Maud Wade. This is Mrs. Bird, who's going to be looking after you.
Hello.
Now, here is their first week's board, Mrs. Bird. That's 15 shillings each, which makes a total of £1.10. Now, you'll let me know if there are any problems, won't you?
I will.
And here is your first week's wages, girls. In advance, you understand? Of course. You won't really not to be paid anything at all until you've done a whole week's work. I don't expect you folk to bring any money with you. Girls don't. Now, your wages are 30 shillings a week, but 15 of that has already gone to Mrs. Bird, which leaves you with a total of 15 shillings. But there's nothing to spend it on in the country anyway. Now, should there be any problems, this is the address of our head office. But I'm not expecting to see you there. I'm confident you're in good hands.
Not much, is it, 15 shillings? They get 21 shillings in the WAF, and they get 3 nickies. Your meal's ready. You'd better eat it before it goes cold. It's lamb and potatoes, and the parsnips are out of our own garden. Well, I didn't like parsnips to start with. The lamb was decidedly mutton, very fatty, and the mashed potatoes was all lumps.
I've made you a special jam tart for pudding.
Cool, jam tart looks all right. It was only a very small jam tart, and it had to last 2 days.
I expect you're tired. I'll show you to your room. You'll be very comfortable. It's a nice big feather bed.
I was an only child. I had never had to sleep in a bed with anybody before. It horrified me that I sleep with Maud.
Come on, I've always had to share bed, and usually with more than 2 of us,
But I've never slept on a feather bed. It was the hardest, longest feather bed I'd ever had the misfortune to see.
I swear this bed's not been plumbed up in more than 100 years.
It had 2 large mountains on either side, and this huge valley in the middle. Well, didn't matter what you did, you couldn't get away from one another.
Oh well, at least we'll be warm.
The morning revealed further horror. I woke, and my nose was rubbing Maud's hair. And it was alive with nits. Absolutely white with them.
Oh, it's not time to get up already, is it?
I had to tell her.
What you got for?
I'm sorry, Maud, but do you know you've got nits?
Have I? Cool, fancy that.
I'm sorry, but I can't sleep with you like that. You'll have to do something.
Oh, what can I do?
Well, actually, I used to be a hairdresser, so I know what to do. Tonight, when we get in from work, we'll go into town and get something, all right?
Yeah, all right.
Here's your breakfast.
It's porridge.
Give you a good start to the day.
Well, she called it porridge. It was oats, boiled in water. But she didn't get the lumps out. You had a plate of grey, nasty water with lumps in it.
Can we have some milk on our porridge?
The milk's for your tea.
Oh, well, can we have some sugar on it?
Sugar's rationed.
Can we have some toasting?
The bread for your sandwiches.
4 slices, and very thinly cut. And she wafted the knife over the margarine. Wafted it over one bit of bread. Wafted the knife over the fish paste. Wafted it over the other bit of bread and slapped a lettuce leaf in the middle.
The lettuce? Is that our own garden? You'd better hurry, he's picking you up at 7.
Who is?
Your boss.
You're on threshing.
Which farm are we working at?
Whichever farm wants us. It's contract work. The thresher machine goes round to different farms.
You're a battered old car.
Get in the bloody back.
He must never wash.
You could plant onions behind his ears and potatoes between his fingers.
Is it very far?
Too bloody far.
Well, it was quite a way, 20 minutes drive, but he was allowed petrol to fetch us because it was war work.
Threshing machine.
Council dust cart.
You get up there.
On top of that,
Bloody get up. Stand there, see? Knife, sheep, twine, cut, and into the drum.
it looks very dangerous down there with all that machinery underneath. Shouldn't there be a guard? What happens if I fall in?
You, break the chopper, smoker. Cut! Cut the twine. Cut the twine. Hear that one, get it in.
Can't cut it.
You're wasting time.
I can't cut it.
Buggering about you losing me money. Cut! 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 In the drum.
Drum.
Cut! 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 In the drum.
Drum. Can I get the lavatory, please?
Lavatory out here.
Oh, yeah, where do I go?
You bloody don't you keep breaking. Cut!
Cut.
Cut!
Cut.
Hear that one.
Cut the twine.
In the drum. Cut!
My arms ache.
Cut!
No.
Cut! Cut! In the drum.
My feet slip.
Cut! 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 In the drum. Right, dinner time. You go behind the edge.
It's a filthy job. Where do we wash our hands?
Look, yeah. Townies.
We worked for that man from 7:30 in the morning, half an hour's break for lunch, no other stops, and then we worked till it was dark. We were literally black when we got in. We worked for him for quite a while, never did find out what his name was. He was just boss. And the man that worked with him drove the traction engine, he was just boss's mate. Well, one morning, boss turned to Maud and said,
Don't want you here no more, you can bugger off.
"What do you mean you don't want me?"
I mean, I don't bloody want you. But I'll have you.
"You can't just have one of us."
But I'm not fetching you every morning. You can come and live in my caravan with me and my mate.
Live in the caravan? It's filthy. And if they think I'm going to live in a filthy caravan with 2 old men...
Yeah, and you can't just sack me just like that. What can we do?
We'll go to head office, to that address she gave us. We'll refuse to go with him in the morning, we'll go to head office instead.
Run, rabbit, run, rabbit, run, run, run. Run, rabbit, run, rabbit, run, run, run. Bang, 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 bang goes the farmer's gun. So run, rabbit, run, rabbit, run, run, run. Run, rabbit, run, rabbit, run, run, run. Don't give the farmer his run, run, run. He'll get by without his rabbit pie. So run, rabbit, run, rabbit, run, run, run.
And what are you two doing here? I've been told that you've refused to work this morning. You've already been paid for this week, you know. This is certainly a black mark against your name.
But he said he didn't want me no more. Wouldn't have me.
What do you mean, didn't want you?
He told me to bugger off, Ridley. And he says I've got to go and live in his caravan with him and his mate.
Are you certain he said that? You didn't mishear.
Yeah, it's right what she says. I heard him as well. He wants her in his caravan as his fancy girl. He don't want me at all. And if they think I'm going to live in a caravan with two old men travelling around the country not knowing where I'm, they want me to be their skivvy. And goodness knows what else.
Now, calm down. I can't strictly believe what you've told me. Many of these girls know little of the realities of rural life. And much of the work they gallantly say is physically beyond them. Many a well-meaning land girl has sometimes, in her early days, been not far from hysterics. Well, you'd better go back home to your billet and stay there. We'll investigate the situation further.
They didn't say any more. Monday morning there was an official at the door.
Maud, pack your things. You're coming with me.
I don't know where she went. I never saw her anymore. Well, apparently they were desperate for milkers, so they were happy to move me. And I went to be trained for months at Sevenoaks with some other girls. Oh, and there was a senior girl there that had already been trained.
Right, now does anybody know anything about cows?
Not a lot.
I don't know one end of a cow from another.
I presume you have seen a cow.
No, never. Don't get many cows in Deptford. The only cow I've seen was on a cow and gate van.
I see. Well, the front end of a cow has a head on it, and the back end has a tail. Towards the back end and underneath are things called udders.
Underneath.
They look a little bit like this. Now, milk comes out of udders.
Oh, and always they come out of bottles.
I've just whipped this up for you to practice on. So get the general idea, do you? It looks like this and it hangs underneath the cow. Now, these are teeth. And you pull on the teeth. And if you're doing it right, milk squirts out and into buckets. Right, will you bring me some you can kneel down, it doesn't matter. Who's going to go first?
I will.
Right, let's move. Off you go. These two first. Like this. That's right. A good strong pull, firm but gentle. It works! Perhaps you'd like a go. Stop it! You silly girl, stop it!
Sorry.
Just you wait till it's a real cow, that's all. Now it's bedtime.
Bed, 8:30. Is that the three naughty girls, miss?
No, it's because you've got to get up early.
I'm used to getting up at 6. I don't normally go to bed before 10.
I don't mean 6 o'clock. I mean early. I mean 4 o'clock.
Oh, we all thought she was joking. We went off laughing. But she meant it. 4 o'clock next morning, we were routed out of bed. Downstairs, cup of tea, and then a mile walk to the farm. We had to be there for 5 o'clock. It was terrible. It really was.
You all know what to do. You first.
Well, there we were, with this great big cow, milking away, pulling away with no milk coming out at all. After about 20 minutes, I've got tears pouring down my face. And a teaspoon of milk in the bucket.
Cows are always like that when you're new. But they'll be all right in a day or two, once they've got used to you.
And she was right.
They were.
I'm milking at last like men naturally milk. It took me some time, but I stuck it. So now I milk Buttercup, Daisy and Jane, and I really get drop on the bucket. I think by next week I shall even milk for my word, we are winning the war. My word, we are winning the war.
After about a month, I went to a lovely little farm outside Tunbridge Wells. I lived on that farm with the farmer's wife. They treated us like one of the family.
I'm feeding the cows and the pigs and the hens. Yes, I carefully boil all the swill. And the cows and the horses, the sheep and the ducks, all the capons, the tarts and the still. The hens go on laying, the pigs are red score. My word, we are winning the war. My word, we are winning the war.
The farmer's wife cooked on an old-fashioned coal range. Oh, the food she turned out, she was a smashing cook. And they kept chickens, so I'd make for breakfast every day. We did everything. Mucking out, digging potatoes, dealing with the corn and barley, everything.
I'm ploughing, my word, I should say I can plough. The tractor is always my choice. I have track drilled and harrowed, disharrowed and all, and I sing at the top of my voice. As I swing round the headland and turn up once more, my word, we are winning the war. My word, we are winning the war.
I had a very funny kind of war. Well, it was very varied and very interesting. It was lovely. I spent 3 of the happiest years of my life there. And though we could never forget the war, we sort of lived in a little island of our own, cut off from most things. The bombing in London, though we were terribly worried about it. You know, the people that were there. Seemed as if it wasn't really anything to do with us.
When the war first started, you'd duck for every little sound if you're out or indoors. Then, after a while, in your mind you'd say, "That's not near us." You'd hear the whistle and you'd have known it had gone over. In the end, people got to the stage where they didn't want to know any more about the shelters. They wanted to live as normal a life as they could in their own homes. Well, social life was difficult at first. All the cinemas and theatres had been closed down to start off with, and then they opened up again. And I remember one dance hall called the Embassy at Welling, and a crowd of us used to go down there. I remember one night, it was about 1 o'clock in the morning, and we'd all had a bit to drink. And there was no buses or trams. We had to walk, and everything was being chucked down. There was bombs! We started dancing and singing.
Down Hickory Avenue, hickey-pickey parley-boo. You'll find your way to in the black hat wood.
Oi! Be quiet! You're causing a public nuisance.
I thought that was so funny, considering the noise going on round us.
By 1943, there was a huge labour shortage and a need to attract the younger married woman with children into war work.
They were doing all this publicity in the town. They had a big parade with tanks and armoured cars and a big mock-up bomb. And they had all these girls sitting on the backs of lorries at the machines, filing, riveting and drilling aeroplane parts. They had other girls marching in procession along behind, and they had a loudspeaker.
Every woman not doing vital work is needed now.
I suppose it was to get more recruits for the factory.
Give them the arms and they will finish the job.
To make people want to join.
Don't queue with the Sherpas.
Join the women workers!
much money from my husband from the army. Mum, I think I'd like to do munitions.
Oh, you wouldn't like it. They'll send you away to different places.
Oh, but you can earn good money.
Listen, I was on munition in the last war. I was working in the gunpowder shed down at Abbey Wood, filling the cordite bags which go into the back of the shells. Well, that was piecework. I could earn about £3 a week, which was a lot in those days. Anyway, the shed next to ours got blown up. And a few of the girls were blinded and a few of them were injured. I was very lucky nothing happened to me. We didn't realise how dangerous it was until his shed got blown up. My dad made me leave. He said he'd sooner have no money and have me safe.
But you were sent whether you liked it or not. Or you were punished.
£5 a day, fine, while the default continues.
Well, you had to do something. I got a letter to go to a place in Sidcup. I was going to have to join up. But I got a baby, I said. Well, you can't join up then, he said. But you can go on war work. Haven't you got nobody to look after her? No, I haven't, I said. Who are you living with then, he said. I'm living with my mother, I said. Well, your mother can look after her then, he said.
Where there is more than one woman in the household who is not in work, it should, in general, be assumed that the elder is in charge of the children.
But my mum got cantankerous.
I'm not taking responsibility of the baby with the bombing going on. I'm not looking after her while you go out enjoying yourself. Why don't you put her in the nursery?
There isn't any nurseries. And besides, if there was one, I won't earn enough money to pay for one.
No difficulties in regard to arranging for the care of children have been brought to our notice. It is assumed that the practice of leaving babies in the care of grandparents or the woman next door is being resumed.
Oh,
It is not, therefore, anticipated that the need for the provision of day nurseries will be widespread.
So, I went on war work at this factory soldering panels for aeroplanes. I was soldering all the little bits of instruments for all the wires. I've been a soldier for biscuit tins before the war, so I was doing my normal job at first. And then they'd come in and give you this special job. You didn't know what it was, but you just done it because it was your job.
In 1943, there was still a huge labour shortage. There was a desperate need to attract the older, married woman into war work. Registration of workers was extended to women of 50.
In our magazine this week, we have a photograph of the best timekeeper in her section, and she is 73 years old. And there is a photograph of Granny with the handsome young airman she is producing planes for.
I was 52 then, so I was over the age limit. I'd never been out to work and I didn't much fancy it. But my husband worked at the glassworks at Charlton. He was going into work one night in the blackout and he tripped, doubled his hand under and broke every one of his fingers. It was a terrible mess. 2.5 years before he could go back to work. So I had to look for a job. And the only thing they could offer me locally was at Grafton's. I was spot welding trigger boxes for bazooka guns. I worked from 8 in the morning until 8 at night for 35 shillings a week.
You haven't got any change, have you, Ruth? 3 pennies for twopenny beads.
Yeah, here we are.
Thank you.
You don't have to pay for the toilet, do you?
Don't speak too loud. They might hear you.
She wants the penny for her overall.
Her overall?
We meant to take them home with us on Saturday. If we forget, we have to pay a penny to the nurse to get them back. Yeah. She thought you was going to spend a penny.
Oh, I could do with it. I'm dying to go.
You go then, love. Don't do you any good if you don't go when you want to.
No, it's all right. I'll last till dinner time.
You go now. At my age, I know about these things.
It's too embarrassing. You've got to ask the supervisor first. Then the men smirk and shout things out, and then he doesn't always let you go.
And you're only allowed so long. They knock on the door.
You're not allowed to smoke, not even in the toilet. If you call smoking, it's instant dismissal.
And for swearing. You can be suspended for swearing.
And we're supposed to have goggles for soldering, but we haven't got them.
And we men have a pint of milk a day, but we never get that.
We don't get a tea break. The men get one, but we don't.
You mean they expect us to work 12 hours on the trot with only one break?
I know, it's cruel, isn't it?
There is a labour shortage, you know. They need us, not the other way round. You don't have to stand for these conditions. You're needed. You're important.
I know, I heard about it on the wireless. You've heard of Florence Nightingale, Grace Darling and the rest. You've all seen Greta Garbo and our bosom friend, Mae West. But there's a little lady I want you all to meet. She's working on munitions and she lives just down the street. She can't pretend to be a great celebrity, but still she's most important in her way. The job she has to do means not so much to you. That's all the same, I'm very proud to say. She's the girl that makes the thing that drills the hole, that holds the spring, that drives the rod, that turns the knob, that works the thingamabob. She's the girl that makes the thing that holds the oar, that holds the ring, that makes the shank, that moves the crank, that works the thingamabob. It's a ticklish sort of job, making a thing for a thingamabob.
I realise you're new here, Mrs. Granville, so I won't take disciplinary action this time.
What?
We don't allow singing at Grafton's.
Well, I'm not going to stand for that. At my age, I don't have to. So, on this Sunday, I went along to the AEU meeting, the engineering union. My hubby was a member, and they accepted me. The following week, I sent a message. Could I see Miss Grafton? She sent a message back. I could see her in my dinner break.
Well, Mrs. Grandwell, what's your problem?
Well, Miss Grafton, it's not just my problem. It's everybody's. How would you like, at your age, to have to ask permission to go to the toilet? How would you like to work 6 hours without a break, without a cup of tea?
Maybe you were wrong to imagine you could start work at your age. The younger girls seem to manage all right.
Oh, well, how is it the men can't manage? The men get a tea break. They have tea brought to them morning and afternoon and cakes on a trolley, and we're just across the way sitting watching them, longing for a cup of tea. We get very annoyed that we should be treated differently. The men get a tea break and we want one.
Oh, it's out of the question.
No, it ain't.
What do you propose to do about it?
I'm starting a trade union for the girls. I've got the AEU to back us and enough girls interested to start it.
Now, what would you want with the trade union?
The same as you want with the Masters Federation. And there's your certificate out there where we clock on. If you're entitled to a trade union, we are. Well, it went on and on. I was in her office more than I was at work. Then they took me away from the girls and put me over beside the men on one of the big machines.
We shall, of course, give you a pay rise, but please do not mention this to anybody else.
It was a farthing an hour rise. 6p a week in modern money. I suppose they thought they could quiet me down, but they couldn't. I kept on. At the finish, we got the morning and afternoon break, and now I understand they've got a big, beautiful canteen as well.
She's the girl that makes the thing, that drills the hole, that holds the spring, that drives the rod, that turns the knob, that works the thingamabob. She's the girl that makes the thing, that holds the oar, that holds the ring, that makes the shank, that moves the crank, that works the thingamabob. It's a ticklish sort of job, making a thing for a thingamabob, especially when you don't know that's what. But it's the girl that makes the thing, that drills the hole, that holds the spring, that works the thingamabob, that makes the engines roar. And it's the girl that makes the thing, that holds the oar, that holds the ring, that works the thingamabob, that's going to win the war.
I well remember VE night. It was at 9 o'clock when Churchill came on and announced that the war war was over. And I think the biggest thing about that night was no longer did we have to pull blackouts. We put on all the lights in the house, opened all the doors and windows. Well, it was a warm night in May the 8th. Bonfires were lit in the streets. Just to think you could switch on your light, you didn't have to pull your curtains. But you could walk down a street and you didn't have to have a torch.
When the celebrations came at the end of the war, the Land Army were not included. We were the forgotten army. They did include us in the local victory parade, behind the Boy Scouts, until we complained. In the end, they put us behind the ATS. We were proud of being land girls. We were a bit upset when we didn't get any recognition. If it hadn't been for us, most of the people wouldn't have eaten.
After the war, some women stayed on at the factory, but a lot of them left because they wanted to be at home with their men. Oh, you'd want to be at home with your husband. I hadn't seen my Charlie for over 4 years. And when he came home, I fell for my eldest boy straight away. Well, once I knew that, I decided to leave.
An elderly man who hadn't been called up said to one of the women, "You know, you're married. You ought not to need a job. And all the time you're staying here, the man who used to do your job before the war is out of work and can't get a job." This woman worked another month and then gave in her notice. He got his job back.
There weren't the jobs for women after the war. During the war, the women were needed. After the war, the men had the jobs back. But you see, we'd really gone through an awful lot. We were all worn out.
Yeah, when my Charlie came home, we had parties and everything. But when he gets in bed of a night time, you find him waking up screaming. And you've got to calm him down. This is what the family don't know. And I expect there's a lot of wives like me.
On the whole, during the war, women became more independent. They thought more for themselves. They had to. They found out what they could do, not only in going out to work, but in managing their families and affairs while the men were away.
We found out it was more to life than housework. Whether we could always act on it once the war was over, well, that was a different kettle of fish. But at least we saw.
When the lights go on again, all over the world,
And the boys are home again, all over the world. And rain or snow is all that may fall from the sky.